Hi everyone, and welcome to Halo and the Hammer. We are going to be going on with our bread theme that we talked about. I'm moving on to English muffins now. Now, this recipe actually calls for 4.5 to 5 cups, and it's the same rule as before, as no flours are made equally. Some of them absorb liquid quicker, some do not. This is a bread flour that I am using here. There is no such thing as one recipe, and that is the only way. There's, you live somewhere else, you may have to add a little bit more of your liquid or a little more flour. So it can vary. So what I'm starting in here with is 4.5 cups of some bread flour. And then over here, I have 2.5 cups of some milk that I have warmed up. And I like my milk to be, my liquid to be around 108. And in here, I also have 3 tablespoons of honey, 4 tablespoons of some oil that I'm going to add. You can add butter. Butter works just as well if you wanted to do that instead. And then I also have my yeast. And what I did 2.5 of dry active yeast. Once this was warmed up, I added the yeast, I whisked it in, I added that honey as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the salt right away, and I'm going to give it a little bit of mix. So the salt, I'm not adding my yeast liquid directly to my salt. Add my egg. I have 1 large egg that I'm going to add in here. Just going to slowly and gradually, and keep it on low. I'm going to slowly and gradually start adding my yeast. All right, now you can see. Okay, it's very sticky. The smarter thing, and I know better, was to dunk my hands in a little bit of flour before I touched it. But okay, so, and there we have it. All right, get nice and close for you to see, and for you to see how sticky this is. That is what we're looking for. Okay. And now what I'm going to cover it up with I prefer to use a slightly damp towel over it, and then I'll put it in a warm place. You can use a dry towel. A dry towel works just fine. You can also use saran wrap. That works as well. I'm just a big believer in using less one-time plastics. So, one-use plastics. So again, cover, warm place, 1 hour, and we're going to meet up again, okay? And that's, like I said, that's what we're looking for. It is, it's thick too, right? So we're at the 1 hour mark, and as you can see, it's more than doubled. It's quite huge, and it's so incredibly soft. Do you see that? And very sticky. I did forget to mention, it's always the same with breads whenever you are about to set it aside to proof, is to put a little bit of oil and rub it all over the top of the outer side of it, so you don't develop a dried out crust on the other side. You don't really want that, have that. So, like I always say, recipes are guidelines. I'm very much not so much a traditional person when it comes to recipes. I like to do things differently. Try something new. That's how things are discovered. That's how pretty much anything has been discovered. By test kitchens, by doing a little differently, by trying it out and seeing if you can do it a different way. And one thing for sure is size. I love English muffins. And when I have an English muffin, I always find they're just never big enough. I am almost annoyed when I get an English muffin that I've purchased. Typically they're about 3 inches, right? I don't want that. I'm making them at home. I want a big English muffin. I'm going 4.25 inch. I'm going to use my little bolts as my cutter. I'm going to make sure I have some cornmeal ready to go. I've already spread it all over this pan. Here, this recipe does need, like most, a second rise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get with that remember the other half of flour from the recipe where it was 4.5 to 5? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start putting that all over here. Some people will just pull pieces out like this and use a pair of scissors. I'm not doing that, period, okay? So let's go ahead and get a good amount of flour. And I'm gonna keep on trying to make sure that I'm getting a good angle. I want you to be able to see what's going on here. So I'm just gonna go ahead. I don't want to punch it down. I want to just roll it out. You want to punch it down, go right ahead, but I'm just not going to do that. It's going to deflate a bit just by doing this, but I'm just not going to punch this guy down. It's a beautiful, beautiful dough, okay? I'm going to put a little bit of flour on top. I'm not gonna worry so much about making a circle and all. Just gonna get started. Like I said, some people find it easier just to use a pair of scissors and just cut your pieces out and then kind of shape them. I'm gonna kind of use my roller. I want at least a ½ inch, okay? I want it ½ inch thick. It's going to double, like these are gonna be enormous, but that's the way I like it, okay? You don't want yours that big. Roll it a little thinner. Go a ½ inch. I want at least a ½ inch all the way around being, see what I got going on here? I mean, you can't see the whole thing. Let me try to move you. That's a better angle. There you go. My head's cut off a little bit, but you can still see what's going on. Now this recipe traditionally would give you, or sorry, not traditionally, would give you yield 16, around 16 3-inch ones, okay? Some people will go smaller than this. You can, because when it does rise, it will get a little bit wider as well as in height, okay? But I want ginormous. I mean, this is huge where I could make a great sandwich. Okay, and I'm just gonna go around and I am just gonna cut, okay? Now I'm gonna cover them up, same as before. I'm not gonna brush them with oil this time though. I'm just gonna cover them up with a towel again, and I'm just gonna let them sit for 30 minutes. So now we're moving on to the next step. I have all of my English muffins that have been rising after being cut for 30 minutes. They're nice and fluffy. I'm gonna very carefully lift one up to show you how nice and fluffy these are, okay? Now what I'm gonna do, I do mine a little different than most. So I got this is, like I said, my iron skillet was already put in the oven to kind of heat it up, okay? I wanted it hot. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of cornmeal. I put it on a medium-low heat because it's already really hot. And I just wanna kind of maintain that temperature. This is something where you're gonna have to kind of find the sweet spot. I'll show you the method of what we're gonna do. So like I said, I'm gonna put a good amount of this cornmeal down. And then I'm gonna start adding whatever spatula works for you. I got one that's a little more narrow. It's actually a pie lifter, but works just as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and start laying, like spreading them out. Now, whenever I do mine, I start with the lid on. And I'm gonna set my timer for 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with this where I'm gonna be doing 2 minutes with the lid on, and then I'm gonna flip them. So putting that lid on, it kind of turns this basically into a Dutch oven as well, right? But it also starts to, the moisture that's inside of them, it's bringing a little bit of moisture into the air. Okay, so my alarm just went off for the 3-minute mark, and I'm just gonna check and see we got some nice color. It's a little darker on that one, but I don't mind that at all. This one's a little bit lighter. See, we're still getting a little bit of hot spots, right? Hot and cold spots. I'm just gonna let them sit again. It's only gonna be about 2 more minutes on this side. And you'll notice too, when you have that lid on, it's almost like a pancake. You'll start to see little bubbles forming right under the skin of the tops of them. And those are those lovely pockets. You know, when you cut into an English muffin, you got all those little crevices and pockets to hold your butter and your peanut butter and whatnot. Do you hear that? You can hear that it's hollowing up inside. I can't believe the size of this one. This guy is enormous. I mean, he's huge. Getting some good color on the bottoms. When I'm down to about a minute left, I'm gonna take a quick little peek, and if things have already gotten to where I want it to be, I'm already seeing all of the bubbling, and I'm already seeing good color. More than anything, you've got good color, and you can see that you can see the bubbling and that it has rise. Like, I still can't even get over, this is pretty hot, but can't over the size of this one. This is gonna be so good.